There's a lot of place around here. We're like a small group tonight, so please come around. Jostein, shut up. Okay, thank you very much everyone for coming tonight. So like no small group, never know what's going to happen here. We organize this group every month and we want to inspire people. So it can be about like technology, different type of technologies, different type of tech stacks, about design, about SEO. We also sometimes talk about something a bit different around the business or new different technologies. So tonight is a bit different. We're not going to talk so much about the dev part, but more about the business side. Okay, about smart technologies, smart services, and how they can use that in in businesses. So now Morphosis and 7 Peaks move into this space. We joined Jostein over there from 7 Peaks. We do design and specialize in development, and so we move here. So we're doing all our events now here at 7 Peaks from now on. Yeah. So tonight we've got Gareth that I know for quite some time now, and Andrew from Hitachi. So both of them are going to talk about smart services tonight.
Thank you very much. Did we just move? Nope. Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for having us tonight, I guess is the first thing. Cool. All right, I will move that way. Cool. All right, so, yep, I'm Gareth. I'm the CTO of DDX. We're in a similar space to Morphosis and 7 Peaks and a few of the other guys here that we all know. More recently, we've been focusing on smart cities and smart services, and we're working with Andrew from Hitachi here on a couple of projects. So Jeremy said, do we want to do a talk? And I thought it might as well be on something that we are working on right now. The text is quite small, so try, I guess, read if you can. If not, then you have to listen to us. We're going to go through some quick introductions. We're going to go through a difference between a service and a smart service. What is the difference? How does this work in real life? Where are customers seeing the benefits? Where is it being used? How do we build a smart service? So my background is software engineering, and I think a lot of you guys probably have a similar background now. But how do we get started? What is it? Andrew will talk about some real-world examples. You do trains and all sorts of huge projects. And then smart cities, which is a bit closer to where we are today. We'll go through some Q&A as well if anyone has any questions. So for the introductions, my name is Gareth. I'm the CTO at DDX. I personally focus on smart cities, although I am a bit more of a salesperson than I used to be. I was a coder, but pretty bad. It wasn't really worth me staying on, so that's why I moved into the sales side of things. I studied maths at university, and I got kicked out. I tell people I was dropped out, but that's not really true. I've been living here 7 years, but I first visited in 1992, so been in and around Bangkok for a while. I've been working in tech, I think 18 years. I used to work for a company here called Fluxus, and I exited to set up DDX last year. Some people I see from British Chamber events, I used to be on the board there, and I continue to work with the British Chamber. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name's Andrew. Thank you all for coming. We will try and be relatively brief, okay? So we won't prattle on too much, and if I do, Gareth will kick me. I work with a conglomerate called Hitachi. We make a lot of different things, ranging from trains to nuclear power stations to electronics to all sorts of bits and pieces. And we focus very much on trying to digitally transform the industries in which we work. I run a group that looks after digital transformation, including smart cities for ASEAN. And so I've been living here for approximately 30 years, so I've been here a while. Yes, it's real. And Gareth and I have been working together on a couple of projects. developing the concept of smart cities, and we have actual projects in ASEAN that we're working on right now, including a couple I'll mention for Thailand. That's it. I think that'll do it.
Cool. That's short for you.
Thank you. Go on.
So in our day-to-day life, we all use services, we all buy products, and then I think as technology gets better, and in fact this building is not a bad example, we're starting to see the idea of smart services. So I just thought I'd start by going through, what is a service? So a service is an intangible item which arises from the output of one or more people. Now, I think in technology, we use them a lot, right? We think of software as a service, we're buying a lot of them, we're spending a lot of money. We are probably one of the industries that uses them more than others. But when we think of, whether it's AWS or any other kind of service, the tangibility comes in the benefits we provide or they provide. But outside of our industries, services are everywhere, right? It could be, here you've got a man from Starbucks, expensive consultants like Andrew. You've got hairdressers and barbers, doctors, what else are there? Lawyers, mechanics. These are all people that are there, and their work is to provide a service to someone. So everyone here has interacted with and used a service, but they're not always smart. We have products and goods, and I think this is sometimes where the idea starts to get a bit blurred and a bit mixed. We have products that sort of sit between the middle. You've got services, you've got commodity goods. And so there's a real difficult sometimes to explain here. You've got a restaurant. A restaurant provides a product, the food, the drink, whatever it is. This is a physical thing that you touch with, you enjoy, you eat it, you drink it, whatever it is. But the restaurant itself provides a service. You are there to be waited upon, you are there to enjoy the ambience, the music, you're there to have someone else clean your plates away and do the cleaning. And utilities like water, right? You're not really paying for the water, you're paying for the ability to have that water piped straight to your tap, your room, your bathroom, whatever it's going to be. And I think that, in technology, it's difficult to sometimes describe what we do and how we sell stuff. And anyone who's here building software, what are you selling? Are you selling the benefits of that? Are you selling the software? The software itself is kind of irrelevant, right? What you're really selling is the benefits that software provides. So what is a smart service? Here are some sort of examples around the world of things that are actually really smart and quite silly. So in the top left, there is a way of seeing which toilet paper is the best. There's 6 rolls there. Presumably the one that runs out quickest is the best toilet paper. You've got restaurants that have knives for regular customers. You've got this little thing here, which is actually a coffee holder for people that want to open the door. There's lots of examples around the world of supermarkets that are growing their own mushrooms. You've got places where you can test how slippy the floors are, through to mirrors in hotels that show you what the weather's like so you can dress appropriately. Now, these are all examples of smart services, but they don't always have to be technical. So I guess the question then is, are they really a smart service? And not really. And they're smart, they're great ideas, they're great products, they're great services, but they're not smart. When Andrew and I talk about smart services, this is something that reacts on and analyzes collected data. Traditional services tend to be in a specific sector. And go back to the example earlier, you've got coffee shops, you've got hospitality, you've got lawyers, barbers, whatever it might be. Whereas smart services should analyze multiple sectors and use that data to provide insights and actions. So let's take this building, for example. It might take data from weather stations, doors, who's logged in, who's not in the building, and sensors. Maybe it sort of says, right, well, on average, people arrive at 7 in the morning. We need to turn on the air cons and lights then. At that point, we can optimize temperature, we can optimize energy consumption, and so on. So a smart service should preempt what's going to happen. It should take data, analyze it, and then use that to control and really make rules around what's going to happen.
Okay, so how do we build these smart services? Can I click that?
Sure.
Thanks. So everything is very data-centric, obviously, because what we're trying to do is to collect data across multiple verticals. We're going to use the example of a smart building, or in this particular case, it's a smart project about 1.83 million square meters of ground space. Okay, it's quite large. So we start off with the data. So data is going to come, as we all know here, from business, people, and sensors. So the next thing we have to build out from that is the public area. So this is the physical infrastructure within which these things are occurring. This is ranging from anything from hospitality, mechanical, electrical, condominiums, retail, parking, etc. This building is not very smart. It's quite smart, but it's not that smart. Primarily because the smart services in this building were added in after it had been built. It wasn't built into the construction process. Then after this, the people who are going to use it. Now, the whole point about smart services is they have to be people-centric. If they don't change people's experience, they're pointless. Now, those people may be the people managing the building, or it may in fact be the people using it, shopping in it, or the community around it. We'll come back to that a little later. So typically the users will be the people living in it, the people coming in and shopping, buying things, living or working here, staying in a hotel, and then the actual people running the buildings in this case. FM means facility management, which is how you manage the building. Now the developers and the people with the stakeholdings over here, these are the people building it. So what we're trying to integrate in this particular process is the software development cycle that runs here, and then the engineer, procure, and construct cycle, which runs in the base. And we have to get alignment between those two very different ways of doing things. Because trust me, construction people alone, they have architects, they have mechanical, electrical engineers, they don't talk to each other. When you try and inject people doing the development cycle, whether it be pure development or actually the designers, they have no idea what the construction people are talking about, and they hate each other most of the time. So one of the challenges we have as a group is trying to get these guys to all understand this model. Then after that, some examples here. These are typical ones. Smart energy is quite simple. If you can find a way to save people energy, they're saving money on their building, they're happier, and also, quite frankly, they're being more sustainable. Smart parking sounds easy. In Scandinavia, for example, they actually use drones to help you park your cars and find the spaces because of the costs over there for labor costs are so high. This part of the world, a little chap running along beside your car is a lot cheaper than a drone. Smart water, again, this comes down to sustainability elements. Security analytics, this is interesting. A good example here would be you're with your favorite uncle in the shopping mall. He falls to the ground, clutching his chest. The camera will pick up the fact he's fallen over. Then the camera will say, okay, it's most likely he's having some kind of seizure or fit. Then the system has to go out and find out where is the nearest security guard. Does that security guard have first aid training? No, find another one. Then finds another one. When it's found the other one, it then has to look at the pathway from where that security guard is to the person lying on the ground. Then they have to prioritize whether it's lifts, escalators, whatever else to get that security guard quickly enough and at the same time call an ambulance. Historically, you do that with radios, and it takes forever. It's like, hey, Charles, are you close? No. Mickey, are you close? Ah, Peter, okay, yeah, you can get, wait a minute, did you do first aid stuff? No, damn it, okay. John, where the hell are you? All of this is now done by a smart service, but it integrates multiple services within the building. And from a coding perspective, it's a nightmare because all the systems, the interfaces are horrible. The video guys don't want to interface with the pathway guys, but it's a nightmare. So that stuff is what everyone's trying to do, is to glue all these different services together. Then this is some of the ICT technology, most of which you'll be familiar with. There's an IoT platform, of course, and then what we're trying to do by taking this data, using data management and working with AI, is produce actionable insights, is the official term. It's a horrible term. It means do something with it. Don't just print pretty graphs. And then the standards which we have to comply with then. And then sort of these are some of the services. I won't go through this in detail, but if someone else later on wants to contact us, we're happy to talk about it. But these are different types of services that are improving the experience of the people using the building, as well as the community around it, because it helps enable a smart community and a smart branding. So generationally, what we're doing here is we're starting out over here where you can generate the data, it's normal products and services. Starts being a smarter product because some of these elements here are generated specifically at the company level. Then we start moving to big data, where the service provider owns the data and can run analytics across multiple different verticals, both the performance of the building, the behavior of the people, the footfall, etc. Then finally, which is where we're trying to get everyone, is to here where you can start forecasting things, forecasting behavior, forecasting wellness, forecasting a lot of different things based on the analytics of the data you're collecting. The Data Privacy Act over here is very, very important. You must make sure these systems comply, whether it be in Europe or in Thailand or the States. What are the benefits to the customers? What's the issue? This is actually quite a good picture. I don't know if you can see it. These are not safety goggles. These are mixed reality goggles. So what he's seeing when operating the machine is actually the performance of the machine, the tolerances, and the percentages in terms of where he has to get. We actually use these when people are repairing trains, because some of the trains, our trains are relatively complicated. And so as a result, they all run on IoT systems. So sometimes we can't train everyone to the same level to understand exactly how to deal with it. So we use the goggles, and the instructions are fed in through the goggles by some experts who sit behind the scenes.
On the goggles, I was reading a case study yesterday about the US military that's now using the mixed reality goggles for training. So, you know, I guess if you give someone a helicopter and say, fix it, they're probably going to break it the first couple of times. Whereas if it's all in virtual space, they can break it as many times as they possibly want until they've got worked out how to use it. And they've taken training time from 18 to 10 weeks, I think, on that.
Yeah. So what we're seeing here is these smart services are enabling knowledge enhancement and education. Also, within the retail experience here, one example I'll give you in a minute about stuff we're doing in Thailand. The interesting point about Thailand is the large conglomerates in Thailand are also very active in the property area, and it's family money in a lot of cases, right? So the family gets involved in it. So the families are now very interested in smart technologies for their buildings because it can enhance the value of the building and their return, but also that allows them to reach across into other avenues and other areas within the conglomerates to apply these smart technology type approaches. Healthcare and wellness, you all probably have some form of excuse me, monitoring system on your telephone or your watch or whatever. If you go back like 15 years, the amount of data we personally collect through our watches and everything else would be stunning to anyone. But we do collect a huge amount of data. Again, privacy is an issue. This one here is interesting. When you're talking to property developers and you explain to them that they can actually monetize the communities by also using smart services to make people's lives easier, not just in their buildings, but around the buildings, the people who use it, come in and go out, because it's a virtual service. Therefore, as long as you have a phone, you can use it. The last piece is predictive. So they can do predictive behavior now in both healthcare. Insurance companies use a lot to figure out what the bans should be. Now we're trying to flip that around for individuals to see how they can promote their health and wellness. And then that to a conglomerate allows them to sell other things to them, quite frankly. But you can improve the level of wellness by monitoring it and allowing them to do something with it. Basically, again, from a checklist perspective, basically, if any of these things seem familiar to you and your clients, this is the ladder they climb until such point as they get to a mature level when they're up over here, where you're basically able to customize the products and services to the individual within either the real estate development, the shops, wherever you are. So again, it's a progressive thing. From the developer and the designer perspective, you need to find out where your clients are on this ladder with the different services you're talking to them about, and try and standardize these onto platforms so that then they're easier to replicate. Because if you look at the property situation, for example, once you have these central platforms set up, they'll be in every single other property they build. So your systems will replicate and grow very quickly. Some real world examples. Okay, so I've mentioned some of these things. I think most of you are familiar with this. In Thailand in particular, two groups we work with is TCC Group and CP. Again, mostly in the retail, although we sell them lifts and a bunch of other stuff. They're very, very active at the moment, and there's a level of competition between these two groups or these two families in terms of whose buildings will be smarter. CP are not so fussed as to which beer you drink. However, TCC takes that very seriously, hence the Chang at the back. I think that some of the areas that we're looking at the moment is both quantification of self, which is what I just talked about, health, wellness, and other elements. Smart homes. Some of the smart home stuff, people think it's being able to turn a light on with a telephone. It's a lot more than that, to be frank. Smart cities is where we're cutting across all these different services and including government. On our side, we do quite a lot of government stuff in Europe, the States, and Japan. Not so much in ASEAN because the government is a little slow on the whole approving contracts process, let alone payment and acceptance. And then also a group of others, Honeywell, ABB, all these different large conglomerates are focusing on how to drive technology and how to make their businesses smart, because they're trying to move from selling a product, as Gareth was saying, towards selling a service, because the services you can charge for on an annuity basis. This is an example. Everyone's wearing disguises for a deliberate reason, so you can't actually see who anyone is. So I use this as an example because it's real and it's happening right now. So we teamed up with MQDC, which is owned by CP. They're looking to do a program at True Digital Park and then roll it out through their other property developments. They're trying to basically get to the point, where we all started with, I'll buy it, I need it, I'll go buy it in the shop. And then the journey is to get over here where it's completely tailored for you, no matter where you buy it or how you buy it. It's pre-tailored for you. So they're trying to take the journey for the shopper from a fragmented process into a omni-channel, individualized process, which is enabled by all the technology that we just talked about, which is informing them of their decisions. However, that does mean they have all that data on you. So people start going, well, how much data do I want other people to hold? Hence the Data Protection Act. And this thing here, this is basic. The reason I can use this is it's from a press release, so it was in the newspaper. It's okay to talk about it. And then in here, we're basically looking at how to drive this initially, as I said, in MQDC and then into other areas. So this is actually being done now. It's real. This is not like theoretically people will. Just very quickly, a few examples if I can. This one's kind of humorous. So this is a project for the UN in China. And basically, the part of China it's in is called Changchun. Changchun is northeast China. It's also where the Japanese landed when they invaded China. So for a Japanese company to be working with the UN in China on a project like this was a little bit ironic. Anyway, the Changchun group wanted this kind of a construction. And central government said, don't be ridiculous, it's frozen 6 months of the year, the flowers will die. But the technology level in this was quite high. The actual visualization for the master planning was a bit optimistic. This one we all know, One Bangkok, same guys as run this building. So we are working currently with them to help make that happen, and Gareth is supporting us on that exercise. This project here was with a chubble out of Korea building a small smart city, this thing here, in Vietnam. And again, this is where they're doing what we call a smart urban blueprint, which is where we design a lot of these services. We design a lot of the elements on how it's going to be done in association with the people doing the master planning. This is a smart city in Japan that's on its 4th generation. This one's impressive because the value of the land and the residentials within this particular development is much higher than all the surrounding properties because it's highly green, it's highly sustainable, and it's a lot of smart services. Sustainability is good to talk about. It's hard to prove it unless you have the data. And to get the data, you need to have the smart services to generate the data, to consolidate it, and to produce the reporting. This one's okay. Has anyone actually been to the Burj Khalifa in Dubai? Yeah, okay. And you fondled the gold taps? Yes, right. It's quite a building. You have to pay to get in. Again, other things here. So the smart mobility, when we talk about this, everything in that particular train is monitored by a central system. And because trains go quite fast, the handoff for the data points within basically the 5G network was quite complicated to engineer. But we've managed to do that successfully in the UK, where once you can get the data on and off the train, then you're creating a digital twin of the train, and then you use that digital twin to drive your smart services and predictive maintenance, everything else. These are just some other areas where it's a similar process. So what we're trying to show here is that we apply smart services to many different industries over time. And what you will see in your industry also is going to be more and more people coming to you and saying, how can I have a smart service? How can I create a digital twin of my building, my aeroplane, my whatever it is, right? My factories. And how do I use that to get them to operate better and to increase the experience of people working, traveling, or using these particular services? Because it's all about differentiating your experience in these particular services, if that makes sense. And one last point from the real estate guys, they're looking to monetize the communities, in other words, to make a profit out of it, but they can only make a profit out of it if you guys enjoy and feel a difference in the services. That's why it has to be people-driven. And I think, at that point, I get to hand back to Gareth. It's all yours.
Thank you very much. So I think for everybody here today, why do we care about smart services and why do we care about, using data? I think a lot of us here are involved in the creation and selling of digital products, of services. There's a lot of people here that are in engineering. There's a lot of people here that run software companies. We're here with 7 Peaks and Morphosis today. A lot of us will produce apps, websites, products. We'll do designing. We'll do consulting. We often have a lot of the same products and services and service lines as businesses. We've all got good case studies, right? We've all got references. We all charge in a similar model, whether it's lump sum fees, whether it's day rates, whatever it's going to be. These are not particularly new models of charging. But where is the value there for the customers, right? So you've got to pick company A, B, C. You've all got big references. You've all got similar day rates. You've all got similar levels of staff. And where's the value for us right at this point? It starts to become a race to the bottom. And I think what we should be looking at as companies is looking at how we can sell smart services. Can we actually provide value to customers and ourselves that are based on evidence? Case studies are great, but without results that are tangible, it's sort of irrelevant. And for our customers, smart services do create different kind of value. They take away the headaches. You take the trains here. Hitachi have built a system that can predict where a train's going to be at any point. Is it going to be delayed? Is it going to be delayed? How much? How long is it going to be, behind service? And at that point, National Rail in the UK can say, right, well, this is our current estimated level of refunds on delayed trains. If it's going to be a building like this, and we can start to build energy services that say, right, we'll turn on the aircon at this time, turn off the lights at this time, we can start to build services that, reduce energy bills. And if we can reduce energy bills, why don't we take a cut in that, right? So you think about business models for ourselves, for the businesses. We should be pushing ourselves further into the life cycle of the services and products that we build and not just charging up front for it. Fine, charge up front, but you should be looking at now at new business models.
One thing, to make your lives a little easier, give me a sec. When you're trying to sell the services that you guys are involved in, it's a tough sale, as Gareth said, and very often you're trying to get the customer to understand the value add. Why do I need to do this? Why do I get a better deal? Sometimes they've decided they have to do it. In this case, you can help them generate other sources of revenue. So when you're talking to people, what you're doing for them in the digital transformation is not just a simple digital transformation. You can create new products. You can create new services that they can then make money and monetize. And you can sell them those services over a longer period of time because you can continually work with that client to improve the services and improve the revenue and hence have a revenue share model to some degree. Also, by the same process, you can also help them save money if it's predictive maintenance and other things. So it changes the model, as Gareth was saying, in terms of how long your relationship is with the client. And when you're talking to them, you're not just selling them a product, you're selling them a potential new revenue stream or a way to save money on their existing services. So it makes that conversation and dynamic more of an interactive process rather than just buy this. It makes it a bit easier, and it also makes that decision for the sale from their point of view more of a relationship sale and less of a are you the cheapest, if that makes sense.
That summarizes it well. I think that's it, is it?
I think so, yeah.
Cool.
Any questions? One microphone, Juan. It's closer. I come to you after.
Thank you, Jeremy. So you'd mentioned a couple of times about privacy.
Yes.
And you just basically stopped privacy. We just have to remember about privacy. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more deeply about the privacy. Is it because of the privacy impacting how much data you can get, or you just what are you really speaking about?
So the issue on the privacy aspect. Let's look at Thailand for the time being, if that's okay. So the new Data Protection Act, everyone's a bit hinky on how it's going to work, etc. But fundamentally, the simple point is if you're processing people's data, you have to have permission to process it, and you cannot do other things with it that you do not have permission for. However, when it gets complicated is when you have video on public areas. Because if you have a video camera, well, in some cases, hundreds of video cameras, collecting data of people on the streets in the public areas, you can't realistically expect to get everyone to sign a consent form. It doesn't work. So that's one of the issues, is how is Thailand going to interpret that? Different countries in Europe, for example, have taken different ways of looking at it. Marseille at the moment is going bizarre about the whole thing. So the complexity there is, one, how do you allow someone to give you permission to do what you want to do with it? To do that, by the way, you have to tell them what you're going to do with it in a mechanism they can deal with. Now, the way that a lot of the apps work is you just hit I consent, and there's a massive document that no one reads. Honestly, that's the truth of the matter. If you, how many of you guys have done this, right? Yeah, see, same thing, right? Because they actually set up the app. I know the guy who did this. He sets it up so you can say, I've read it all. Well, that's the point, because you just have a button to say, I'm not going to read it, but I read it. I've done the button, and they can say, we comply. I actually went through the whole damn thing. And she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm just curious to see how long it is. She goes, press the button. Fine. So that's part of the privacy laws, in that some data you can actually help improve the services, but you still must be able to A, delete it at request, and B, they have to have consented for you to do what you're doing with it. And you must have that documented. Does that answer the question? Okay, no problem. I think we're okay. Well, the problem is the pizza's arrived, right? Everyone can smell the pizza. Like, get over with this. We're hungry.
Right, very quickly. You've got countries like Singapore, which are slightly more advanced than other nations, like, let's describe like Changi Airport or the infrastructure. And they're a bit more ahead of other countries like Thailand, the UK, and certain countries which we think are quite advanced. And therefore, they had an advantage, whilst they've been already got some legislation around it. Other countries don't. And they're proactive, and they're already taking on traditional companies which, like the fire industry, which is worth billions, hence Honeywell. And yourself, it's great doing a smart town and city and a building, but what's the major barrier for you that you're encountering at this current moment in time? Because I just finished working on a project where I had to put some what I call advanced standards in a developed country just so they can improve on the critical infrastructure, because they never had it. So it has some advantage and pros, and I just want to know your feeling to that.
I think the challenge for us in Southeast Asia, Singapore is a benevolent dictatorship, okay, realistically. So they can be very aggressive about how they move things forward, because they simply say, we're going to do it. That's it. And also, they don't really have a very large population. It's about 4 million Singaporeans, give or take. So they are very advanced. Barriers for us are when mostly what we focus on is a lot of the private side of things with private developers, because they have deadlines, budgets, and the government takes a lot longer. What you're referring to about introducing national standards, etc., into countries is a very long process. I know the thing you're talking about because you told me earlier. But it's, in our case, we're focusing more on the private sector in ASEAN because it moves and you can get things done. When you try and work with the government, which we do in a lot of areas, it's a much more prolonged process. So the biggest barrier we face in the private sector is the cynicism of the owners, the money. So if you look at real estate or you look at manufacturing, look at other things, they're cynical about spending a lot of money on this because they don't always understand the return. And there isn't a framework that says you have to do it like there is in Singapore. So we're trying to drive change, so we have to create business cases for people to understand what is the commercial return on me doing this. Will it save me money? Will it improve my brand? Will it give me additional revenue streams? And creating those from scratch is a challenge. But no, on the government side of it, we tend to be less active on some of this with the government unless they're nationalized industries. But yeah, the lack of standards is frustrating. I would agree. Does that answer the question? Thanks.
All right, these guys got to go very, very soon. We're going to take like one more question, if anyone want to ask something.
Stunned silence. Yes. It's part of the smart service infrastructure or platform can be the smart contract or blockchain because it's an enabling platform to deliver the smart service. So yes. Subset. Yeah, subset.
All right. So I'm pretty new to this, so I'm kind of wondering. I don't know how old this space is. I think it's still a developing area, right? How much of what you implement is something that can be pieced together? So the old building something from scratch takes a lot of effort, right?
Agreed.
So I'm wondering what have you used out there that can be sort of off the shelf to help implement some of the solutions that you've put together?
There are a series of. Where's the doodad thing? Here, let me explain. Just 1 second. Where's that list of? Where'd you put them? Oh, I've missed them. Hey, sorry, that slide takes too long. Give me a second. No, it's a bit. Where was the list with the vendors on it? Down. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So a good example of this. You'll see people like Honeywell, Johnson Controls, etc. This is specifically for real estate, if I may answer the question this way. They make what they call building management systems. So these are great. They sit there, and if something goes wrong, they'll raise an alert, but they don't do anything with it. So part of the issue is you leverage some of those types of systems, fire and safety systems, etc. The funny thing is most people in buildings actually turn the BMS off because it's too complicated. They don't want to deal with it, and it beeps all the time. They don't know what to do. Actually, genuinely, this is actually my professional experience. It's quite sad. So there are pieces you can use and integrate, but once you start getting all that data into a data lake and building your digital twins within that data lake, which basically requires the standards, which we do now have, then you can manipulate that data to create and enable these smart services. And then there are other products that will allow you to run basically workflows across these other different verticals. So we aren't writing everything from scratch. To be quite honest with you, my company is guilty in Japan of trying to write everything from scratch. And the thing is, the market moves too fast. And so by the time it's ready, tested, and everything else, there's 15 generations have gone past. So we're trying in this region and in the States and Europe, we use some of the core stuff developed in Japan, but we're also using off-the-shelf products and integrating them together. So yeah, the answer is there are products you can integrate, but there's still gaps.
You've been to my house, right? So some things are automated there. When I wake up, my alarm goes off and my coffee machine turns on, right? So these are obviously very consumer-focused devices, platforms, networks. But you can go onto Lazada or lots of other marketplaces, and there's lots of IoT sensors that are out there. You could buy lots of environmental sensors, temperature sensors. You can connect them via gateways and LoRa networks, and then start to collect the data. I think the sensors and the things you can buy off the shelf, there's thousands, hundreds, millions of the options out there. And I think the value of, at least for you or other companies here is to sort of, what can you do with that? Is it making sure my espresso machine's heated up 15 minutes before I get downstairs? Or is it making sure, that your lights or your aircons are on in the office, whatever it might be? There's so much off the shelf that you can buy, but the value is then what do you do with it and the data, as Andrew mentioned.
And talking about actionable insights, if we can work out a way to deal with him with a hangover in the morning, it would be a great improvement. Okay, any other questions, or are we all good?
If you guys still have like some time, up to you guys.
Okay, what time is it? Yikes. One more, then we've got to run, otherwise we're in the shame. If there is one.
Any more questions? Yeah, okay. Same guy, yeah.
Sorry, I'm in a pretty modern building, probably designed by our Arab next door. So inside this room right now, what type of other features can you put in which will help improve the ambience of the people around using smart systems which aren't predominantly dominated by Honeywells and the traditional people who don't want to change. So can I get some ideas from you?
Yeah, I think the idea here is that the standard, this particular building has the Honeywell BMS in it, actually. And I think it's probably fire and safety with Honeywell, although I'm not entirely sure. That piece I'd have to qualify. What this building doesn't do is try and predict very much. It reports and gives you alerts that something's gone wrong. What it doesn't do is enable its reaction to that something being wrong. Just I told the story about your uncle crashing next to you, right? It doesn't do any of those sorts of things. So what they've done is they get up to the point where it'll raise an alert, and then someone, probably using phones and walkie-talkies, tries to get it sorted out. What we are looking to do on some of the projects we're talking about right now is, from the facility management point of view, to make the facility management guy's job better, we'll predict the performance of the various mechanical electrical systems within the whole thing, in order for them to be able to correct it before there's a problem, rather than waiting to find it when they do scheduled maintenance. What does that mean for you? It means the AC is not going to break down very often. It means the temperature control is going to be realistic. It also means, in part, that your energy bills will be lower, because if you're not using an area, we can reduce, depending on the design, we can reduce the level of AC, etc. That's one. In terms of health and safety type things, we can also predict how many people are in a room, how many people, like today, looking around, right? There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 people wearing a mask. I'm not, because I'm talking. And trust me, you can't hear me through a mask on this thing. So you can do, and you can also predict whether people are overcrowded in a room and a bunch of other things. So those sort of facility management things are easy to describe. Well, the other things we're looking to do on the retail side of things is to try and collect data on who's doing what, where, and how, in order to give you better choices. Those things are easy to do. Also, there's the trendy thing at the moment is you can look in this virtual mirror that'll show you what you look like in clothes. Honestly, the technology is quite cool, but it's more suited to the laboratory than it is for real retail. But in theory, you can do this on your computer now. You can virtually try on clothes and that sort of thing. Yes, you can do those things. Your experience of living, you don't work and live at the same place, do you? Actually, I know where you work, sorry. So that's fair enough. So it can help integrate different aspects of your experience, whether it is working, traveling. Another thing you can do, an easy example, VIP is going to come to the office, right? So you can register the VIP such that when his car comes in, the camera picks up the number on his car. It's then prioritized that someone will deal with the parking issue. The lift will be ready for him. The pass will be ready for him. He can just scoot straight up and it'll only stop at his floor. All those sorts of things can be done. Does that give you some examples? Will not work on fire and safety before you start, okay? Oh, and the other thing you can do in your particular area of expertise is detect left luggage, i.e. things that go bang. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys. The next meetup will be on September 14, and we'll talk about like how to become a product designer. So a bit different from today, so more like like design centric for next time. And we'll have a speaker like called Craig talking about this next month. Thank you very much for coming tonight. There's pizza, there's still like some beer, so like please stay around, connect to people, and just enjoy the night here. Thank you very much to the speakers. They've got to go, unfortunately.